Picture this. You're sitting at dinner with a group of people you barely know. Someone at the table leans in and says, "So tell me about yourself." Without thinking, you start talking. Where you work, who you're dating, what you're struggling with, maybe even that thing you're really proud of. And for a moment, it feels good. You feel seen, connected. But here's the truth. Most people never stop to realize every detail you give away is like handing out pieces of your armor. Small, harmless pieces. Until one day someone puts them together and suddenly they know how to strike you where it hurts. Now, I want you to sit with that thought for a second. How many times have you shared something only to regret it later? Maybe someone twisted your words. Maybe a friend told someone else what you thought was private. Or maybe you noticed how people started treating you differently. Not because of who you are, but because of what they think they know about you. Here's the kicker. Most people are not plotting against you. But most people are careless with information, and your life story in the wrong hands is like gasoline in the wrong place. One spark, and it can burn down your reputation, your opportunities, and your peace. And let me be crystal clear. This isn't about paranoia. This is about power. When you protect your personal life, you protect your leverage. You protect your identity. You protect your freedom to move in the world without being boxed in by the labels and judgments other people slap on you. So tonight, I want to challenge you to think differently, to question the way you share, to notice the way you expose, and to understand that silence sometimes speaks louder than the most powerful words. Because the truth is, the less people know about your private world, the more unstoppable you become in your public one. When people talk about strength, they often think of muscles, money, or influence. But there's another form of strength most people overlook, the strength of silence. Privacy is one of the most powerful tools you will ever own, and yet, many give it away for free without realizing what they're losing in the process. The truth is, the less people know about you, the more control you have, not just over how others perceive you, but over how you navigate the world. Think about it. Every time you share a piece of your life, you hand someone else a part of your blueprint. You tell them where you've been, what you want, what you're afraid of, and what drives you. If you give that blueprint to the wrong person, you've essentially given them the key to manipulate, control, or even sabotage you. And here's the kicker, you rarely know who the wrong person is until it's too late. Mystery is powerful because it forces people to guess. When people don't know what's going on behind the curtain, they can't predict your next move. And unpredictability is strength. Imagine a chess game. If your opponent knows every move you're about to make, you've already lost. But if they're uncertain, if they're always questioning, you keep the upper hand. The same applies to life. The more you reveal, the easier you are to figure out. The less you reveal, the harder it is for people to box you in. This doesn't mean you have to be cold or detached. You can still connect with people. You can still build relationships, but you learn to do it with intention. Instead of offering your whole story to anyone who asks, you give them just enough to engage, but never enough to compromise yourself. You decide what version of yourself the world gets to see, while the real you, the most valuable parts, remain protected. That's not secrecy. That's strategy. Look around at people who command respect, the kind of people others lean in to listen to. They don't walk into rooms announcing their personal struggles or bragging about their private wins. They move quietly. They speak selectively, and when they do share something, it's deliberate. And because of that, their words carry weight. Their presence carries power. People lean in because they're curious, not because everything has already been spilled out on the table. Contrast that with someone who overshares. You've probably met them, the type of person who tells their whole life story to anyone willing to listen. At first, it may seem entertaining, even endearing, but after a while, you realize there's nothing left to wonder about. They've given it all away. And the truth is, when you give everything away, you lose a sense of authority. You make yourself predictable. And predictability isn't powerful, it's boring. And worse, it's weak. Let's be honest. People can be nosy. They'll ask questions, dig for details, and sometimes act like they're entitled to know everything about you. But here's the reality. They're not entitled to a single thing. Your personal life is not public property. You don't owe the world your vulnerabilities, your relationships, your goals, or your struggles. Every time you choose to stay private, you're choosing to protect your leverage. And leverage is what keeps you in control when life throws challenges your way. Consider the professional world. Employers, coworkers, and competitors are always observing. The more you reveal about your personal life, the more you allow them to shape narratives about you. Maybe you mention a financial struggle, suddenly you're seen as desperate. Maybe you talk about a fight with your partner, suddenly you're unstable. Maybe you brag about a success, suddenly you're a target of envy. None of this has anything to do with your actual ability or character, but once it's out there, it shapes how people view you. By keeping things private, you strip away their ability to use your personal life as a filter for your professional worth. There's also a deeper, more personal side to this. When you hold your personal life close, you protect not only your power but also your peace. Privacy gives you space to process, to heal, to grow without outside interference. When everyone knows your business, you live under a microscope. You start to feel the weight of other people's opinions, judgments, and expectations. And the more you let that noise in, the less freedom you have to actually be yourself. Privacy liberates you from that. It lets you move, change, fail, and rise again without an audience critiquing every step. That kind of freedom is priceless. Some people might say, but I want to be authentic. I don't want to hide who I am. And they're right. Authenticity matters. But authenticity doesn't mean exposure. You can be real without being reckless. Being authentic is about showing up as your true self. Being private is about choosing which parts of that self deserve protection. The strongest people you'll ever meet are not the ones who broadcast everything. They're the ones who know the value of keeping certain things sacred. Think about great leaders, powerful entrepreneurs, or even influential thinkers. The world might know their work, their message, their impact, but very rarely do we know the intimate details of their private lives. Why? Because they understand that their personal world is their fortress. They build walls around it. Not because they're hiding, but because they're protecting what matters most. That level of discipline doesn't make them less authentic. It makes them untouchable. When you begin to practice privacy, you start to feel the difference in how people treat you. Instead of being taken for granted, you become someone others pay attention to. Instead of being easily defined, you become someone others want to figure out. Privacy creates curiosity. And curiosity creates respect. And when people respect you, they're less likely to cross boundaries, less likely to underestimate you, and far more likely to see you as a person of value. So the next time you feel the urge to overshare, pause. Ask yourself, does this serve me? Does this strengthen me? Or does it expose me? Because once something leaves your mouth, once it's on the internet, once it's in someone else's head, you don't control it anymore. But when you keep it to yourself, you own it fully. That ownership, that control is real power. Privacy isn't about hiding. It isn't about being cold or distant. It's about protecting the parts of you that fuel your strength, your resilience, your identity. It's about moving through the world with confidence, knowing you don't have to prove or explain yourself to anyone. Privacy equals power. And the moment you embrace that, you'll stop handing away your strength and start living from a place of controlled dignity and unstoppable presence. It's a tough truth to accept, but one you need to hear. Not everyone around you is rooting for your success. Not everyone who smiles at you wants to see you win. And not everyone who asks about your personal life does so because they care. Some people are curious. Some are careless. And some, whether they admit it or not, are waiting for the chance to use what you share against you. We live in a world where people are constantly observing, constantly comparing, constantly measuring themselves against others. And when you openly reveal the intimate parts of your life, your struggles, your wins, your relationships, you're feeding that machine. You're giving people ammunition, whether they consciously mean to harm you or not. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's malicious, and sometimes it's cloaked under the disguise of just wanting to know. But the effect is the same. You weaken your position. Let's be real. Human beings can be complicated. Jealousy is real. Envy is real. Insecurity is real. When you share something positive, maybe you landed a new job, maybe your relationship is thriving, maybe you're building something exciting. Not everyone is clapping for you. On the surface, they might not congratulate you or give a polite smile. But inside, some are thinking, why them and not me? That tiny seed of envy is enough to change the way they look at you, treat you, or speak about you when you're not around. And it doesn't stop there. People often repeat what they hear, not out of malice, but out of habit. You tell a coworker something personal. They tell another in confidence, and before long, something private has traveled through an entire office. You share a secret with a friend, and they let it slip in casual conversation, never realizing the weight of what they revealed. Suddenly, you're left exposed, vulnerable, with details of your life floating in places you never wanted them to be. The damage is done, and the control is gone. Then there are those who are deliberate, the ones who listen carefully, not to connect with you, but to collect on you. They take note of your weaknesses, your fears, your mistakes, and they file them away until the moment they can use them to their advantage. Maybe it's a competitor who uses what you shared to undermine you. Maybe it's someone in your social circle who spins your story in a way that damages your reputation. Maybe it's a person you trusted who turns out not to be as loyal as you thought. It happens more often than we want to believe, and it always starts with one small disclosure that never should have left your lips. Here's the thing. Intentions are invisible. You cannot see into someone's heart. You can't scan their mind to know whether they're genuinely supportive or quietly waiting for you to slip. And because you don't know, the safest, smartest choice is to limit what you give away. When you keep your personal life private, you don't give anyone the chance to misinterpret, misuse, or manipulate your story. You take away their power before they even have the chance to wield it. It's not about paranoia. It's about patterns. Think back to your own experiences. How many times have you shared something and later thought, I wish I had kept that to myself? Maybe you told someone about a struggle, and they used it to question your competence. Maybe you shared a dream and they laughed or dismissed it, making you doubt yourself. Or maybe you opened up about a personal conflict, and instead of support, you got gossip. Those are not random accidents. Those are reminders that not every person in your life has the intention or the capacity to hold your truth with respect. There's another side to this that's just as dangerous. Sometimes when people know too much about you, they start to box you in. They define you by your past mistakes, your old habits, your setbacks. Even if you've grown, even if you've changed, they keep you trapped in the version of you they remember. And every time you overshare, you reinforce that image. You give them material to hold you back instead of letting you evolve. By staying private, you give yourself the freedom to outgrow their expectations without being tied to the stories you've already told. It's also worth noting that some people aren't rooting for you because your growth threatens their comfort. When you rise, when you change, when you build something better for yourself, it shines a light on what they're not doing. And instead of letting that inspire them, many people choose the easier path. To criticize, to undermine, to resent. And if they know the details of your personal life, they'll use those details as weapons to justify their negativity. Privacy denies them that weapon. So what's the takeaway? You have to be intentional about who earns access to your inner world. Not everyone deserves the unfiltered version of your life. Not everyone deserves the privilege of your trust. When you're selective, when you guard your privacy, you quickly see who truly cares about you. The ones who are genuine will respect your boundaries. They won't push, they won't pry, and they won't need every detail to be present for you. The rest? They'll show their frustration. They'll complain you're too private or too secretive, and that's your clue. Because anyone who demands access to your personal life without respecting your need for privacy is showing you exactly why they don't deserve it. The truth is, your personal life is not a buffet for others to feast on. It is your sanctuary, your foundation, and once it's exposed, you can never fully take it back. By keeping it private, you filter out the noise, the jealousy, the manipulation, and you keep your power exactly where it belongs, in your hands. People may speculate, they may wonder, they may even invent stories to fill in the blanks. Let them. Their assumptions can't hurt you nearly as much as your own words can, once they've been handed over to the wrong person. So remember this. Not everyone has good intentions. Not everyone clapping for you is cheering for you. Some are clapping because they want a closer look at how you move. Some are clapping because they're waiting for you to fall. And the only way to protect yourself from their hidden motives is to stop giving them access to the most valuable thing you own, your personal life. There's a kind of weight that doesn't come from lifting anything physical. It comes from eyes watching you, opinions being thrown at you, and the invisible pressure of living under everyone else's expectations. That weight gets heavier the more you share your personal life. Because the truth is, the moment you open the door for people to step into your private world, you also invite their judgment, their commentary, and their unsolicited advice. And whether you realize it or not, that noise starts to mess with your mind, your emotions, and your peace. Think about the last time you told someone about a decision you were making. Maybe it was about a career move, a relationship, or a personal goal. The moment the words left your mouth, suddenly there were opinions, lots of them. Some supportive, some doubtful, some flat out discouraging. You went in with clarity, but you walked away with confusion. That's what happens when you let too many voices into your head. Your own inner compass gets drowned out by the static of everyone else's projections. Protecting your peace starts with protecting what you share. Peace is fragile. It's that quiet space inside you where you can think clearly, heal, and grow. But when you constantly expose your life, you let other people walk all over that space. You give them permission to criticize, to question, and to insert themselves into matters that were never theirs to begin with. And make no mistake, once you allow that invasion, it's hard to get your peace back. Because the human mind is wired to replay, to dwell, to worry. Someone makes a careless comment, and you find yourself replaying it over and over, even though they've long forgotten it. That one small remark starts to live rent-free in your head. There's also the matter of comparison. The more you share, the more you give people the opportunity to measure you against others. And when people start comparing, they rarely do it with kindness. They'll look at your choices and stack them up against their own or someone else's. Suddenly your unique path is being judged against standards that were never meant for you. And when you internalize those judgments, you rob yourself of the peace that comes from simply living life on your own terms. On the flip side, when you choose to keep things private, you create a protective barrier around your mental and emotional space. You don't give people the ammunition to add their commentary, so you stay free to process things in your own time, in your own way. You make decisions without the pressure of outside noise. You heal from setbacks without the world speculating about how you're doing. You celebrate wins without people finding ways to minimize them. That privacy is not isolation, it's preservation. It's creating room for your mind to breathe without interference. Social media makes this even more dangerous. In a culture where people are conditioned to post every detail of their lives, it feels almost unnatural not to share. You see someone broadcasting their new relationship, their new job, their vacation, and you think, maybe I should do that too. But here's the hidden cost. Every time you put something out there, you're opening yourself up to comments, likes, dislikes, and silent judgments. And whether you admit it or not, your brain notices. 100 likes feels validating, 10 likes feels discouraging, and the cycle starts to dictate your sense of worth. That's not peace. That's dependence on other people's approval to feel good about yourself. When you guard your personal life, you break free from that cycle. You no longer need the external validation because you're not chasing it in the first place. Your peace isn't tied to how many people clap for you. It's rooted in the quiet knowledge that you're living for yourself, not for an audience. That's mental strength. That's freedom. Another aspect of protecting your peace is avoiding unnecessary drama. The more you share, the more you attract opinions, but you also attract gossip. People love to talk, and personal information is currency in the world of gossip. You might think you're confiding in one person, but the truth is, once it's out of your mouth, you've lost control of where it travels. By the time it circles back to you, the story is twisted, exaggerated, and laced with negativity you never intended. And now you're not just managing your life, you're managing rumors about your life. That stress, that distraction, chips away at your mental health. All because you opened a door that should have stayed closed. Peace also comes from boundaries. When you're selective about what you share, you're teaching people how to treat you. You're making it clear that your personal world isn't up for public consumption. People who respect you will honor that. People who don't respect you will push, pry, or complain, but their reaction tells you everything you need to know about whether they deserve access to you. Boundaries filter out the noise, leaving you surrounded by people who bring calm, not chaos. Protecting your peace also allows you to recover from setbacks privately. Failure is part of growth, but when you've shared every detail of your journey publicly, failure feels 10 times heavier. Not only are you dealing with your own disappointment, but you're also dealing with the weight of other people watching, questioning, and sometimes even celebrating your struggles. When you keep things private, you remove that extra layer of pressure. You fall quietly, you get back up quietly, and you rise stronger without the audience commentary. And here's something people rarely talk about. Peace is power. When your mind is calm, when your emotions are steady, you make better decisions, you're less reactive, less impulsive, and more focused. But when your peace is constantly under attack from oversharing, you're distracted, you're insecure, and you're easier to manipulate. Protecting your peace isn't just about feeling good, it's about staying sharp, staying resilient, and staying in control. At the end of the day, your personal life is the one place where you should feel completely safe. It's your sanctuary. And if you let too many people into that sanctuary, it stops being peaceful. It becomes crowded, noisy, and chaotic. You owe it to yourself to protect that space. Not because you're hiding, not because you're afraid, but because your mind, your heart, and your soul need quiet to thrive. So start asking yourself before you share anything, will this add peace to my life, or will it take peace away? If the answer is that it might cost you even an ounce of peace, it's not worth sharing, because nothing, absolutely nothing, is more valuable than protecting the stability of your mental health. And the best way to do that is simple. Keep your personal life private and let your peace be the proof of your strength. One of the most underestimated forms of power in life is control over your own story. The story people tell about you, the story you allow others to believe, and the story you choose to share. The moment you put something out into the world, whether it's a personal detail, a private struggle, or even a small piece of your everyday life, you lose ownership of that story. People will interpret it, twist it, exaggerate it, and pass it along in ways you never intended. And suddenly, the life you're living isn't the life people see. It's a distorted version that others created because you gave them the raw material to work with. That is why controlling your narrative is non-negotiable if you want to protect your influence, your reputation, and your future. The problem is, most people give away their narrative without realizing it. They're casual with their words, casual with what they reveal, casual with how much of their personal world they hand over. Casual comment here, a private photo there, a story told in the wrong company, and slowly they lose command of how others see them. What happens next is predictable. People start making assumptions. They fill in the blanks with their own imagination. In time, those assumptions become the truth about you, regardless of whether they're accurate. Think about how many times you've seen someone judge not for who they really are, but for a story someone else told about them. It happens in workplaces all the time. Someone shares a small piece of information. Maybe you said you were stressed. Maybe you mentioned a personal issue. And suddenly people begin to see you as unreliable or unstable. You never said that. You never meant that. But because you gave them the thread, they wove the fabric. That's what happens when you don't control your narrative. People take the pen and write their version of your life. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine choosing carefully what you reveal. Imagine deciding what version of yourself people get to see. Instead of random details scattered everywhere, you reveal only what strengthens you, what aligns with your goals, what serves your bigger purpose. You share not from impulse but from intention. In that moment, you shift from being someone others define to being someone who defines themselves. That is real power. Public figures are a perfect example of this principle. The ones who rise and stay influential are rarely the ones who overshare every detail. They master the art of selective disclosure. They give people just enough to create a narrative that works in their favor, but they hold back the parts that don't serve them. They understand that mystery is leverage and that too much exposure is vulnerability. Look at the people who have destroyed their careers by saying too much, posting too much, or revealing too much. They lost control of their story and the world rewrote it for them. On the other hand, those who are disciplined about their privacy keep the narrative in their own hands no matter what people speculate. Controlling your narrative doesn't mean faking your life. It doesn't mean lying, pretending, or creating a false persona. It means being intentional. It means knowing that not everything belongs to the public. Not everything belongs to your coworkers. Not everything belongs to your friends. Some things belong only to you. And by keeping those things to yourself, you preserve the integrity of your story. Here's the danger of letting others control the narrative. Once the wrong version of your story spreads, it's almost impossible to fully undo it. A rumor, a misunderstanding, a twisted detail. Once it's out there, it grows legs. It spreads faster than the truth, and people cling to it because it's often more entertaining than reality. That's why prevention is always stronger than correction. It's easier to guard your story from the start than to try to rewrite it after it's been distorted. Even in personal relationships, this principle matters. When you overshare with someone too early, you allow them to create an image of you that might not reflect who you truly are. They may freeze you in the frame of your past mistakes, or lock you into a version of yourself you've already outgrown. But when you choose what to reveal and when to reveal it, you give yourself the freedom to present the most accurate version of who you are today. You shape how people see you instead of letting them guess. There's also a psychological element to controlling your narrative. Human beings naturally create stories to make sense of the world. If you give them pieces, they'll put those pieces together in ways that often don't favor you. If you give them nothing, they'll speculate, but their story is built on shadows, not facts. And the beauty of speculation is that it fades quickly. People can't cling to something they don't know for sure, but when you hand them facts, unguarded, unfiltered facts, you give them something permanent to hold on to, something they can repeat, something they can weaponize. That's why privacy isn't about being antisocial. It's about being strategic with the story you allow others to tell about you. Ask yourself, who's writing your story right now? Is it you, or is it your coworkers, your neighbors, your friends, or the people scrolling through your social media? If the answer isn't you, then you've already surrendered control. And once you've surrendered control, you've surrendered power. Taking back your narrative means learning the discipline of silence. It means asking yourself, before every disclosure, does this strengthen my story, or does it weaken it? If it weakens it, it doesn't leave your mouth. If it strengthens it, you share it strategically. That's how you maintain control. It also means accepting that you don't owe anyone the whole picture. People will demand details, they'll push for answers, they'll insist on knowing more. But their curiosity isn't your obligation. Your life isn't their entertainment. Your struggles aren't their talking points. Your story belongs to you first, and no one else. The moment you start seeing it that way, you'll stop feeling guilty about holding back. You'll realize that control isn't selfish, it's survival. And here's the reward. When you control your narrative, people respect you more. They see you as someone disciplined, someone confident, someone who carries themselves with purpose. They may not know every detail, but they don't need to. What they see is enough to form a strong impression. An impression that you built, not one they created for you. That kind of authority doesn't just protect your reputation, it elevates it. So don't hand the pen to anyone else. Don't let careless words or casual oversharing write a story you don't want to live in. Be intentional, be strategic, and above all, be protective of your narrative. Because once you control the story, you control the perception. And once you control the perception, you control the power. Your life is the most valuable asset you will ever own. Not your car, not your house, not the money in your bank account, your life. Every experience, every decision, every relationship, every moment is part of that asset. And yet people give pieces of it away as if it has no worth. They talk about their private struggles with anyone who will listen. They broadcast intimate details of their relationships for strangers on the internet. They open the door to their personal world